Hello. Hey, let's try this again. Hi. Hi, everybody. This is Deb Hart with Jill Johnson. I'm going to invite her in right now. Add viewers to your broadcast. There you go. Here you go. There you go. And welcome to, where are we? Humor, Grace, and Grief. Jill, let's try one more time. I hope everybody here is going to a place in their heart and just thinking about what they want to talk about today. So, Jill Johnson. Well, we'll get there. You can tell this is not one of my fortes, is working the camera and talking at the same time. Jill, come on up. Let's see. Jill Johnson. It's not doing it for me. Jill's got a whole, there she is. Yes. Jill, right now. There you go. It's coming up. Okay. Hi, Jill. So sorry that I can't get you fast enough on here. I just apologize.
We're all good.
Yeah, we're all good now. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm good. I have a lot of changes going on right now, and one of which is, you know, when you're uncomfortable, but you can't quite put words to it. Well, that was me helping to lead the church. And so I talked to some other people who had more words than I did, and it clarified how I didn't feel like we were doing enough to support in these changing times and grief times, right? People of color, women, people of whatever sexual orientation, and our particular little church through the ages, we say we would, but we didn't put enough out to it. And so after I listened to everybody, I wrote this letter to our congregation. I also posted it on Facebook. I think you may have saw it. And I said, it's a new paradigm, and it's not going back, which can be a real struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's what's going on. So as I'm bringing in change and letting go of the old, there's still lots of questions, you know. A friend of mine who speaks said, so you're changing it up again, and I go, no, I'm not changing it per se. It's like I want you to be more connected inside to what you really believe in.
Yeah.
And that goes along with grief, right?
Yes.
You know, to be more connected when you are grieving is quite difficult. When you still have kids to raise, or parents to take care of, or animals to take care of, or you have a job, or whatever it is, you to be connected is so difficult.
Yes.
So that's what's going on with me. How about you?
Well, other than we're headed for the hottest weekend since 1944, it's gonna where the pressure. I don't know if anyone, but the heat is caused by a pressure dome over the Southwest, and California is entirely enclosed. So it actually impacts moods, and it impacts people's health. And people with autoimmune diseases are feeling it. And it's just blasted hot too. It's going to be about 115 tomorrow. So there's nothing good about 115 degrees. And I don't care if we've got dry heat or wet heat, 115 is 115.
And yes,
Yeah.
I just wanted to support that statement. Whenever I was a home nurse for numbers of years, and whenever it was really hot out, all my patients with any kind of heart problems had a lot of difficulty. So if
Right.
you have any heart issues, and back then, fibromyalgia and other autoimmune things weren't talked about as much, but people were suffering. And now, so here in the Midwest, when we go through stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's horrible. It's horrible.
We've had a long, hot summer already. Because the work I do in the dementia community, I'm linked to people in a lot of places in Europe, because Europe is way ahead of the United States and how they handle dementia versus how we handle dementia. And so they are talking about battening their gardens down for winter this weekend. It's cold. They're putting sweaters on. They're bringing firewood in. I'm just wishing I had some of that experience right now. I know when it's super cold this winter, I'm not going to feel that way. But right now, I would give anything for an ice storm.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's hard
It's
because
sort
we've
of
got a lot
like,
of, mhm,
no, go ahead, go ahead.
we've got so many people who are locked in because our numbers we're starting to reopen, but the numbers are still high. And so we've got folks who haven't been able to go out for a long time, and now they literally can't go out. And it's almost a shift in how they see it. It feels a lot more boxed, and they feel like they've lost a lot more. And it's creating a loss, kind of a secondary grief. So I've been doing a whole lot of, let's see where we can find something that we can laugh about in this while we're dealing with the real impact of it, because it's not going to help any of us if we just stay serious the whole time. It's just not.
Right, right. You know, what you call cold in California, we call shorts.
Yes.
Shorts and t-shirt weather. And not quite as bad as Canadians. However, right now we're having a really wonderful cool spell till we go back into the 90s, which when you go back to the 90s will feel like a cold spell. That's how it works. There is that kind of certain almost claustrophobic feeling when you cannot leave the house. It's
Yeah.
another thing to say, I choose not. But when you're told, it is claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And my heart goes out to people like that. Um,
And even in areas
I,
that don't normally get hot, like San Francisco is going to be 99 to 103 this weekend.
that's crazy for San Francisco.
They don't have air conditioning, a portion of them. And so this is going to be truly unbearable. It's going to be 100 in the mountains here, where it really does get as cold as it does where you are. And we
Yeah,
do have
yeah.
no, it's going to be 100 degrees in Big Bear this weekend. And so there's no escaping, there's no place to go. And
Hmm.
they're even more locked in because they're truly not used to this kind of heat. The
Sure.
one you could laugh about, I I'm doing a presentation next week with folks from across the country, and we were on a prep call yesterday. Two were from the Bay Area, and they said, yeah, it's going to be unbearable. And I said, yeah, but this is the time that we scare the tourists. And they both smiled. And everyone else on the call was like,
Exactly.
what are you talking about? And I said, yeah, we call this earthquake weather. The heat doesn't cause earthquakes, but we call it that, and it gets people's attention. It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
only thing we can
yeah.
do with it. Yeah.
You know, I want to address, if it's okay,
Yeah.
talking about humor. And one of the ways that you do humor is sort of almost like absurd gallows humor. So let me explain for the listening audience what gallows humor is. You know, gallows, of course, are where they used to, I'm sure you've seen it in movies, especially Monty Python movies, where our Princess Bride, where, you know, they're hanging you. And so who laughs about hanging, but just they call that gallows humor.
Mm-hmm.
And nurses, social workers, people who in the policemen, firemen, when they are in the direst of listening or attending to or seeing the gruesomeness of life,
Yes.
that's when your brain just, it sort of flips. It can be an automatic mechanism where you flip into, um, well, I'll give an example in my life that I would often say when we would have 3 or 4 people dying at once on the floor, on our nursing floor, and the nurses would turn to each other, and one of us would say, if one more person dies, I'll kill them. You
Right.
know, like that's a bizarre statement only made for nurses.
Right.
That's not family, because that sounds horrible. A friend of mine who had attempted suicide, and I happened to be the one to reach her before anyone else, and she lived, and the tension in me was so high. When the first thing I did when I saw her, how how weird is this? You ever do that again, I'll kill you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it was like, you know, you say these bizarre things.
To
And
break
so to break the tension and within yourself and other people. So absurd under times of stress is so important. And absurd means gross exaggeration or gross minimization. And, you know, people joke about their death. As I put the cartoon on today, people, are you flirting? There's 2 ways to say you're flirting with death, right?
right.
Are you flirting with me? And, you know, another great example was, since it's coming out, Bill and Ted's, I think it was their most excellent adventure, where they wanted to cheat death. And there was Twister, there was I don't know if they were playing Scrabble or cards. I mean, that's bizarre, right?
Right.
But it makes you catch your breath.
Weekend
That,
at Bernie's the same way.
say that again.
Weekend at Bernie's very much the same.
Exactly, exactly. How bizarre. And those of us in the death and dying industry happen to know you can't make his arms move like that.
No.
After, you know, that's so bizarre. It's just
Does not work that
bizarre.
way. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. But just for the moment, your brain is like scrambled and it makes you take a breath. And that's one of the most important things. I know you have a book coming out, right? Can I mention it?
You can.
And tell me the title again.
It's called The Rebellious Widow, Reclaiming
That's
Life
right.
and Love After Loss.
And you talk about humor in there and how important that is. And you also talk about how important it is just feeling okay, more than okay. It's not being selfish, it's focus.
Yes.
And you are focusing on that partner that is dying. And sometimes I think it's not only legal marriages, it's partnerships.
Right.
That when that person is not just um, leaving, what's the word I want to say? Leaving each other on the physical plane. I don't mean like a business partnership. I
Transitioning.
mean, yes. And when they're leaving, focusing, because some people get offended. Why didn't you contact me? Why aren't you reaching out to me and telling me what you want? Well, I can't affirm enough how not selfish that is.
Right.
That is focus.
It's necessity.
And it's a necessity, and you need to put your focus there. So good for you for writing about this. And I love your writing style. I am going through stuff and sending you some stuff this afternoon.
Oh, great.
And yeah, and I wanted to call attention to another book that you have that I use. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
You're in it too.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. We have some different widows in our life around here, and our cousin and somebody else that is across the street. And so I've been listening to what you've been saying, and about every few weeks I just put a little thing on their doorstep, and for our other cousin had died, Paul, a text with a picture
Right.
means so much.
Something that
And
says, remember them, and something funny about them, something that you're going to carry with you about them.
Right.
Those things that you file away and then you share at a moment when someone's just wondering if everyone remembers that somebody actually died, because when an intimate partner dies, your whole world shifts. And everyone else kind of remembers that they died, or they do actively remember, but they're going home to regular houses and everything's the same. And the widow is going home to a totally different experience, surrounded by all the rules that we impose, particularly on widows. And so I think it's important that we make sure we mention those names and we call those folks, so we leave the messages. Yeah, I wrote the book so that people would be, it's to prepare people who are going to become widows, help the people around them, give them the space and the grace, and allow them to do what they need to do, because there's too much room for criticism that people think they need to share. Like that thing with, focus. I had people who were furious with me and I didn't even know it, because I didn't return phone calls the last few weeks that either of my wives were alive. I don't return phone calls normally anyway. You have to text me to get me, but I'm definitely not going to return a phone call while someone I love is dying. I assign the phone to someone else. They return the phone calls. They know what I would say. I'm completely out of it.
I don't think this culture, I don't know about other cultures, so I can only speak from this perspective, that there is not enough death etiquette.
No.
You
And there's
know, go ahead.
like in the South, when there's a funeral procession, people pull over still. And they'll even
Mm-hmm.
get out of their car, and if they see a flag in the hearse, they'll cross their hand over their heart, or they'll take their cap off their head. They don't know the person who's in that hearse. They don't know the people in that procession, but that family sees that they're getting respect, and it means the world to them.
It does. It does. And here in our town, that happens maybe about half the time, not all the time. I think if you're over 50, you still remember to do that.
Right.
Sometimes because hearses come and the lights aren't on, and then they are, you're confused, and so you just slow down and
Press
whatever. But
along.
yeah, it's just so we need Miss Manners. Miss Manners says, pull over. Miss Manners says, you know, and it's the same thing when someone dies. It is not the responsibility of the person who's left to reach out to everybody.
Right.
You know, our lives aren't the same. And so we're adjusting.
The
And,
energy is going in toward the primary griever, not out from the griever to everyone else.
mhm. I have a question because I'm starting to look at things this way. I know when you wrote the book, it was maybe it was more pre-COVID and now COVID.
Right.
And I think a lot of our books need what's the word? Addendums.
This one's going to have one. Yeah. I
Yeah,
contacted my editor and said, yeah, I've only got a brief mention of COVID. We need to I need to put a blurb in there for that.
because even expecting, I think, our friends and family to reach out to us when they're also doing grieving that has nothing to do with our loved one who died,
Right.
it's almost like you're getting cheated.
Hmm. You
It's
are.
like you don't get other people's attention because everybody else is grieving
Right. And nobody can come over.
and nobody can come over.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like prison. They can leave instead of putting it through a slot in the door, right? They can
Yeah.
leave a casserole on the. Now, I know people are doing safe distancing and drive-bys and things like that, but it's almost like, oh, so the widow isn't only grieving the loss, they're grieving another loss on top of that. This would
Secondary.
be called complicated loss.
It is more
Yeah,
complicated, and it shouldn't have to be, but the situation is. And from what I'm hearing from CDC folks, this is going to be going on for a while, and we'll have more waves of this, and we'll have to continue
yes,
to be careful whether we like it or not. And
right.
so we're going to have to be starting to prepare for this is going to be the way of grief at times for some time to come. And we're going to have to be prepared for that. Yeah.
Contact a therapist, please. Listening audience, don't wait for a crisis.
Do not.
Contact them now.
And if you're supporting someone who's losing someone or grieving someone, make sure that you are a presence one way or the other and that you're not
Right.
always so serious. Let them have someone who's losing someone may be finding some funny in it. And the people that are not familiar may find that odd. In our house, we laugh when people are dying, and so did the people who are dying. And, it's part of how you cope. We had an uproariously funny sex moment when my first wife was dying, when my girlfriend Wendy and I were trying to figure out how to empty a catheter bag in the middle of the living room without making a mess. And so my wife was instructing us from her hospital bed 2 days before she died as to how to do this. She was laughing too. We were completely inept. That should be allowed, but there were some people on the outskirts who thought that was maybe not so funny. You have to be there.
You have to be there.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, the humor and the laughter rises organically. Inevitably, there's going to be somebody with no sense of humor.
Always.
And they are going to say, that's horrible, or that's disgusting. And what I say to those people, I think you need like a really good, safe tickle somewhere. However, and I talk a lot about how do you prepare for grief, not just when someone's dying, but how about while you're living now?
Right.
And, initiate. If you don't know how to be funny, if you laugh at others, that is good enough. And I don't mean like making fun of somebody.
Right.
I mean, can you appreciate absurdities? Can you appreciate extremes? Can you appreciate minimizations? Can you, can you do that now? Practice now.
Can you tell them stories?
Yes, I'm just so pleased with the people in my life, yourself included, that appreciate humor in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And they get how important it is. And I guess I choose to surround myself with people like that.
That's your healthy.
That's right. That's right. For a little lighthearted humor, I also brought out Grandma D's Bubbles.
Love that book. I absolutely do. And unfortunately, my copy is in my office, which I haven't been to.
Well, I might have to rectify that and send you another copy. At least. Yeah. And it's just important to, and the way I approach death in that is using a metaphor of a bubble, because it covers every kind of death, whether it's a human, a fur baby, a snake. They're not fur babies, but they die.
Right.
So I think that's really important.
And kids get that book. We have in my office. It's borrowed frequently when we were in the office because my other staff would come and get it and read it with their littles, and they really, really got it. And they take it out and show it to their parents or grandparents in the waiting room because it's their level and they get what it means. Kids get grief and they get death and they do well with it if someone speaks their language.
Exactly. I have to in a children's library, a grade school one. She said, "No, Mom, you have to write it this way. No, Mom, you have to write it this way." And I okay, I'm listening to you. Another resource I wanted to put out before we go, and then is this one, Grief Digest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So our listeners can just look up Grief Digest and they will find that. They'll send it to you, or you can get it online. It's really wonderful. The other thing I wanted to remind people of is September 18th, right? Isn't that when we are doing a memorial for pets? So barring that, not everything fries up in your neck of the woods and you still have communications, because I don't know what 115 degrees is going to do, but
Not
I
gonna
think
do
you
good
can.
things.
No, you can roast vegetables for a couple hours at that temperature.
We can make
So
cookies in the car, but we're not gonna be in the car.
no, no. Uh,
Yeah.
you might have popcorn because I know you're growing corn. You might have popcorn, so think about that.
I might. One other thing I want to bring up is there is a free national teleconference on September 11th of all days, about grief. It's being put out by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Agency of the federal government. And it's got 3 tracks, one for school staff, one for community mental health staff, and one for just people in general. It's completely free. And we've got
Mhm.
the page for this site and on my sites, but it looks really spectacular. They put it together in a great big hurry. So shout out to SAMHSA
Mhm.
for figuring that out. And it's being coordinated in Wisconsin, by the University of Wisconsin. They have a special program there that belongs to SAMHSA. But if you know people who are needing those kinds of things, the first day is September 11th, and it'll have, or 10th and 11th, it has introductory. And then in November, the same people, we're going to go back in and do interactive experiential stuff on the same track.
Mhm.
So
I signed up for both.
it looks like a good
Yeah.
program, doesn't it?
Yeah, very good. I know you're speaking
Lots
on,
of people. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I'm doing Are You the Right Person to Meet? Are you meeting your grief clients in the room in a way that they're going to want to stay with you, basically?
right,
Um,
right.
but there's some, the people I met yesterday who are doing their sections are doing some incredible stuff for all the different populations. So I don't think there's going to be a bad section, which is kind of cool.
I am looking forward to it. Let's put that out one more time, if you don't mind reposting it
I
and
will.
tagging me,
I
and
will.
that would be great.
Yeah. And
All
Andrea,
right.
if you're watching, she's a teacher, she's a cousin, and she's got teacher friends. So that would be something to share with her teacher peeps.
Yes, yes. Thanks so much again for sharing some time, Jill. And um, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm not the best with technology. I'm like, I can't get on the right page. What am I? And then I figured it out. You know, it's like mini losses before I even get to the loss.
It's panic.
Ah,
Yes.
thank you so much, Jill. I'll be sharing this on my page and you'll be sharing this, and I hope it provides people with some resources today.
Me too. Come back next week, everybody, and send us any comments or questions you want us to talk about.
All right. Bye bye, dear.
Bye.
See you later. Bye bye.